My name is Claire, and it's an honor to be here with you today. The future of flavor in specialty coffee is fermentation with intention. Our history with fermentation has been functional, but there's a new wave of producers who are using knowledge and precision to craft the flavor profiles that they want using fermentation. The coffee I'll be serving you today is the greatest example of this. So before we dive in more, I'll be preparing a few things for my signature drink, including my signature drink espressos to allow them to cool for later. I'll be using the same espresso recipe for each course, with a dose of 20 grams in, and a yield of 39 grams out, as I found that this gave me the best tactile experience for this coffee of a medium weight and a syrupy and juicy texture. My brewing temperature today is 94 degrees Celsius, as I found that this gave me the best extraction with which to highlight this coffee's sweetness and flavor balance. Oops, pardon me. So the coffee I'm serving you today is produced by Dr. Mauricio Chata at his farm, Finca La Negrita, located at 1,900 meters above sea level in the Tolima region of Colombia. Now, this region, in my opinion, is one of the best in the world for producing coffee. So in addition to that high altitude, Mauricio also benefits from abundant shade, cool temperatures, and volcanic soil, which means his coffee already has incredible taste balance. Today, I'll be serving you Mauricio's naturally processed Sidra cultivar. Sidra is a hybrid between Typica and Red Bourbon. And it already has exceptional taste qualities. But the reason that I'm serving you this Sidra today is purely because of the flavors that Mauricio has managed to create using intentional fermentation. But how does he do this? Well, as you can see illustrated on the cards in front of you, fermentation in coffee is when yeast and bacteria consume sugar within the coffee cherry in order to produce energy. But in addition to energy, this process also generates many other new compounds. And these compounds diffuse into the green coffee seed, changing its chemical composition and its flavor. So by selecting a particular yeast or bacteria strain and controlling its environment, a producer can control and elevate the flavor of their coffee. And that's exactly what Mauricio has done with this Sidra. So he starts by picking the cherries when they reach a ripeness level of 20 bricks, as this has the best overall sugar content for his fermentation. Then, he floats the cherries in a solution of sodium hypochlorite, which cleanses off any indigenous yeast or bacteria that could interfere with his fermentation. Then he places the cherries in a stainless steel tank and inoculates them with a specific yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, also known as baker's yeast. Without this yeast strain, Mauricio would not be able to create the flavor clarity and vibrant acidity in this espresso. The tank is kept in a temperature-controlled dark room that gets no hotter than 18 degrees Celsius. And the fermentation is monitored so that the pH is no higher than 4.5. It's this level of control that allows Mauricio to create the intense fruit flavors in your espresso today of red currant and plum. Now, the fermentation lasts for 48 hours. And during this time, the tank is flushed with nitrogen to remove the byproducts, carbon dioxide and carbonic acid. These can create astringency in coffee. And so by removing them, Mauricio ensures that his coffee has a long-lasting finish. The coffee's then dried for 6 weeks at 20 degrees Celsius in order to preserve all of those fermentation flavors. And all of this work culminates in an espresso that just gets better as it cools down. So please, judges, when I serve these to you, assess the crema, but don't drink until I ask you to do so. So along with red currant and plum, you will also get flavor notes of dried cherry, marzipan, and baker's chocolate. There we are. It's got a medium weight, that juicy texture, and the finish is long-lasting and lingers with that baker's chocolate. Now please, stir these espressos 15 times front to back, and then you can pop those spoons in those green jars to your left-hand side. And enjoy. Thank you. Now, judges, let's move to your milk course. As I said, I'm using the same espresso recipe as the first round, but I'm teaming it with a milk in a ratio of 1 part espresso to 3 parts milk. And the milk I'm using is a blend of 60% of a 4% fat milk and 40% of a freeze-distilled, lactose-free milk. This combination in this ratio allowed me to enhance the creme caramel note, or caramel pudding, in your milk drink. I'm steaming the milk to 60 degrees Celsius to enhance its sweetness, and this transforms the baker's chocolate note from your espresso into a note of white chocolate. Now, the fermentation flavors in the coffee are not the only source of fermentation flavor in this course. Because as milk ages, lactobacillus bacteria consume the sugar within it, producing lactic acid and increasing the milk's acidity as it ages. So today, the milk I'm using is 5 days old, as this level of acidity allowed me to enhance the dried mango note in your milk drink. This milk drink also has a coating texture that reminds me of melted ice cream. Now, to enjoy all these flavors, please stir your milk drinks 5 times before popping your spoons once again in those green cups to your left. Now, many of the flavors that we love in fermentation are not volatile in green coffee. So, in order for us to enjoy them, there we are. The coffee has to be roasted. And as a roaster myself, that's where I come in. So I chose to roast this coffee to an end temperature of 212 degrees. Here we are. And a total roast time, thank you, of 10.5 minutes. What this allowed me to do was extend the Maillard phase of the roast to maximize that coffee's sweetness and texture. But by keeping that end temperature slightly lower, I could ensure that I maintained clarity in the fruit flavors. There we are. Thank you very much. Last but not least, thank you very much. Please enjoy your milk drinks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, many of the flavors that we've enjoyed today in this espresso are a direct result of Mauricio's intentional fermentation process. This coffee, with this yeast, and in this environment. And that inspired me for my signature drink because I wanted to elevate the flavors in this sidra whilst also creating a new taste experience using fermentation. So in front of you to your right-hand side, you'll see there's a small black box. You could please lift the handle, flip it, and pop it on the table for me. Yeah, all the way down. Perfect, thank you. Inside there are 2 samples that are just for your reference and not for scoring. Sample 1 is plain blueberry juice. If you could please take a sip for me, just for a flavor reference. You'll see that it's sweet, has a juicy acidity, but is one-dimensional in its flavor. Now, sample 2 is my first signature drink ingredient, what I like to call sweet lacto-fermented blueberries. Again, please take a sip of number 2, just for reference. So there's a much more vibrant acidity, a much more complex flavor profile going on. So how I did that was I added 200 grams of blueberries to half a gram of lactobacillus bacteria. I sealed it in an oxygen-free environment just like this one and allowed it to ferment for 48 hours at 25 degrees Celsius. The bacteria consumed the sugar in the blueberries and produced, as you tasted, lactic acid and many other flavor compounds. So when I add 35 grams of that to 6 shots of my sidra that I've chilled, it totally transforms the flavor and creates new flavor notes of black currant and white jasmine tea. Next, I'm adding 17 grams of a cold brew hibiscus tea made by adding 1 part hibiscus to 10 parts water for 12 hours. This will enhance the complex acidity in the sidra, but when combined in that blueberry ferment, creates a new note of strawberry. Now, many of the sugars in those blueberries were consumed during the fermentation. So in order to restore synergy to my signature drink, I'm making a sugar syrup with 1 part water to 1 part coconut sugar. The coconut sugar, with its brown sugar sweetness, will enhance the sweetness in the sidra. And when I combine it with the blueberry ferment, it creates a new note of fruity cacao nib. And lastly, I'm adding half a gram of a salted orange blossom water, which is made up of 5 parts salt solution at 10% and 1 part of orange blossom. This enhances the stone fruit character in the sidra, but when combined with the blueberry ferment, creates new notes of lemon peel. Now, lastly, as inspired by Mauricio himself, I will also be charging your drink with nitrogen. And what this will allow me to do is create a silky texture, a drink with a structure that's wine-like in its tannin, but also a long-lasting finish that lingers with that lemon peel. I'll be serving this drink at 20 degrees Celsius for the best flavor synergy. And if you could please take 3 sips to get all of the flavors, but swirl your glass between each sip to ensure that texture remains. This combination of this coffee with these ingredients and in this environment creates a unique taste experience. But by using knowledge, intention, and precision, we could create unique flavor experiences in coffee using fermentation with any coffee. And this opens up so many opportunities for us as an industry to explore flavor. And I'm so excited to see where this will take us next. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Time.